It is Midweek Extra. It's John Gibbons hosting this week. We are in association, of course, with Green King Sport, and I am joined by Rob Gutmann, by Mo Stewart, and by Josh Williams to, first of all, look back on the Forest game and then look ahead to what is now, well, it always was going to be, but it particularly feels now a massive game against Brentford. We'll talk a little bit about the league table as well with regards to the Arsenal win last night. But first of all, just want to give a huge shout out to Green King Sport, of course, for partnering with us throughout the season. If you download the Green King Sports app, you not only get 10% off drinks when there is live sports on, but it'll tell you where your nearest Green King Sports pub is. So have a look at any games, really, football matches. There's a big game in the Championship on Friday night. There's obviously massive games on the Premier League throughout the weekend. Australian Open's on if you want to start early. Start as you mean to go on sort of throughout the weekend. There loads of great tennis on. Andy Murray coaching Djokovic. It's interesting, isn't it?
It's mad.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like if Pep had decided to become an assistant coach to Jurgen.
That is mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it is mad.
That is weird.
Yeah, but you can see how he gets on over sort of the next couple of weeks. So yeah, download that Green King Sports app. Make sure you're following them on Instagram as well. It is the Green King Sports, and thanks again to them for partnering with us throughout the season. Right. So part one, I put Forest what went wrong, Josh. Part two is what went right. So we've all got that to look forward to.
I'm happy that I'm actually on the agenda, by the way.
Well, what it was, Josh, you live so beautifully in my mind that I was in the City ground watching Liverpool take long shots, and Josh went, I thought Josh warned me about this.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you play against Forest. You get frustrated and you start shooting from places, largely Ryan Gravenberch, that you shouldn't be. And so as I was watching it in the ground, I was like, Josh Williams warned me this would happen. And now I'm watching it play out like a bad dream.
That's why you book me on these shows, mate.
Yeah, just to warn me about the terrible things I'm going to say.
Yeah, just to forecast misery. Are we going from there, are we?
Yeah. So why were we taking shots where we shouldn't do?
They're just very good at making you do that. I had a bit more faith that we'd expect that and not do it. So I was a bit
did it from the off.
I know, yeah. I thought we were very, very naive in the way we did it. To be honest, I was very disappointed in the first half. We can literally concede the first shot that we face, which is such classic Nottingham Forest. It's unbelievable. Then we go and take 6 shots from outside the box in 45 minutes, and they were all like genuine field goals, like exiting the stadium and that. So I just felt we really played the exact game they would have wanted, and I was a little bit surprised at that, to be honest, because we know how much the first Forest result has lived in Slot's head. You know, it's bothered them. So I thought he'd come. There
was a song about it.
Exactly, yeah. It was a good one, to be fair. It was a decent one, but I thought we'd come with a bit more of a sophisticated plan than concede the first shot, and then anytime you get in the final third, shoot. I just thought it was very naive. We did fix it in the second half, which we'll get to, but yeah, first half, if we're touching on that in isolation, it wasn't great.
There's tactics and there's things that sort of happen in game, and no one plans to concede from the first shot. I don't even think Forest can necessarily plan to score from the first shot, but they do make a habit of it. But we also make a habit of conceding. There was a stat after the game, Mo, and I sort of tweeted something about it yesterday, but I said I'm interested in talking about this today, about how much of it is bad luck, how much of it is bad goalkeeping, because it is the goalkeeper who's the last line. You know, how much of it is, are we letting 3 shots go? Someone came back to me and said, this idea of, being bad defending. And I was like, well, that mean a lot of shots, not necessarily that you're more likely to concede from them, but we sort of got into it in a little bit, in a obviously friendly way, about this idea of, well, if there's no pressure on the shooter, then actually is XG sort of accounting for that, which is, an interesting thing I don't necessarily know the answer to. I mean, XG is developing all the time, but, whatever it is happening. I'd like to think it was bad luck, because that would suggest that it will change, at some point. But this idea that since Alisson's come back in, he's had 15 shots on target and conceded 9 of them. That's a lot for an elite goalkeeper.
It is a lot, and it's alarmingly a lot. The kind of thing that you would notice, even if he wasn't such a great goalkeeper beforehand. But it's difficult, because the thing I always think about is when you concede a goal, more often than not, it's not one mistake, it's a collection of 1 or 2 mistakes, or maybe 3 mistakes that lead to someone getting a goal. But if you look at the 3 times when the team has scored with their first shot against us that have stuck in my mind recently, Fulham, Leicester, and now Forest, in all three situations, there were people saying, well, I'm not sure, maybe Ali could have done a bit better there. Now, obviously, the Fulham one, he gets a deflection of Robertson just in front of him, but still.
Same with Leicester.
Yeah.
Leicester was deflected as well.
Still not a great position that he's in. But the thing about it is kind of what Josh was saying before about what we were expecting. That's what was so frustrating about that goal against Forest for me was if you look at when Hudson-Odoi wins the ball on the halfway line, if you watch Alanga and Wood, they are immediately running straight into positions, and they're not doing things that we shouldn't be expecting them to do. So why are we not immediately running into positions alongside them? And so I think it's 7 seconds from Hudson-Odoi winning the ball to the ball getting in the back of our net. 4 touches between 3 players. So they know exactly what they're going to do and they execute it perfectly and clinically. And you can say, yeah, that's a team who've won 7 on the bounce or whatever it was. They're looking very sharp and very clinical. But we should know that. We should absolutely know that they were trying to do that because they've taken the lead in more games than anybody else. This is their MO. In order to be able to play that low block successfully, you need to have a lead. And so giving them a lead was literally the worst thing we could have done. So I was as frustrated with that moment as with some of the shots. But in general, I just feel like kind of what Josh was saying before, I was looking at the first half just thinking, well, what's our plan? What's our plan to make them do what they don't want to do? And I couldn't see it. And you've seen it sometimes in games where what we want to do is also what the opponents want us to do, but generally the team with more quality over the course of a period of time will get the upper hand in that. But Forest are so good at doing it. Like, I looked on the kind of average positions of the Forest, and it was like they basically had a line of 6 just across just on the edge of their defensive third, and then a gap, and then the front 4. And so whenever the line of 6 were able to win the ball and pass it to the front 4 went off and did their business. And we saw that a few times in the second half, but we were able to cut them off. But they were so entrenched in their position. We weren't dragging them out. We weren't making them go wider. We weren't creating any gaps in this line of 6. They were just happy to sit there. And again, if you think back to the Man United game, kind of a similar thing happened. They just sat there. We didn't drag them out of position enough. And obviously the second half comes and they get a little bit more tired and then there's a bit more spaces. But we need to get better at opening up the spaces in those earlier moments because, again, taking the lead against teams who are playing that way makes them have to change what they do. Maybe not immediately, but certainly over time. If they are happy to just keep doing the same thing again and again and again and again, we aren't going to get anywhere.
They seem to panic a little bit, me to Rob, when the goal goes in. I actually think they start the game pretty well, and there's decent purpose to our player. Then I felt that their reaction to Liverpool scoring, to Forest scoring was almost over caution, and I think there's a bit of a lack of movement. There's we're not pulling teams around like sort of Mo was saying, and I wonder how much of that was. Just a bit of fear about giving the ball away because we've just seen what can happen when you do it. What did you make of the first half? Is it because it's hard to separate what happens before the goal and what happens after because it's such a short amount of time? But it did feel to me like I was, when people around me in the ground were saying sort of similar, quite happy with sort of how we started or we look on it here, and then the goal happens, and obviously there's the atmosphere as well which needs to be brought into it. It was quite something else really to sort of and imagine it was great for them to play in, but from a Liverpool point of view, it makes you just maybe that little bit edgier to do something. I don't know how much of it do you think it was the goal, or how much of you think of it is just our general kind of first half malaise?
It's the first half malaise has been too common now this season to say it's not a thing.
Yeah,
it is a thing, and I'm not sure entirely what it is. I've got a theory I'll espouse in a second. I do think. The danger with what happened when they scored first is it's fulfilled the prophecy that we didn't want to happen. Because all the build up to this is Forest are going to low block you and trying to hit you on the counter, and the worst thing you can do is concede the first goal because then they've got something to hang on to.
They'll block their asses off.
They'll block their asses off, right? So, and all the preparation all week will have had this message drummed into the players. We are going to get that first goal. We're going to be set. We're going to be compact, and yet we've got these ways of breaking, and we're going to find a way to break down their low block. I do think there was a plan to break down the low block, which involves doing what I've seen against other teams that have set themselves low this season, which is basically to dink one to the back post. Gakpo being particularly useful at that, and that's why I think he's increasingly become a mainstay of this team, because the minute a team sits deep against you, well, not just Gakpo, Salah can also do it. Salah can dink one for Gakpo, and Gakpo can dink one for Salah. And that's kind of, we're looking for those kind of overload so that can happen. But when the prophecy's fulfilled and Forest score, then I think psychologically it's in your head that you knew it was going to be tough. Now it's tough +1. It's really, really bad. And there's another factor in all this, and Slot said it at the end. It's really hard to break down teams that want to sit that defensively against you. It's just really hard. And you go back to all kinds of iterations of LFC down the years. I've seen us toil, good and bad Liverpool teams that expected to dominate games, toil against low blocks. I think we're in an age, really, where managers are a tad lucky that not that many teams low block it, certainly in the Premier League, the way they used to. Since the advent of the press or the play out from the back fashion, it's not quite as simple as teams just sit in and say, you can have the ball, do your best, we're happy with the 0-0. It's not quite as simple as that anymore, and it gives the sides that don't want to face those low blocks a slightly better chance. What Liverpool did do, which was the oldest fashioned way of breaking a low block, and we'll come to it in the second half, is just wear the fuckers out, make them tired, and then eventually you get a gap.
Lots of teams, I mean, Rob's right to point out not as many teams low blockers as sort of used to, but what I would say as well is there's not many teams, in history really, who normally you low block if you're shit, to be honest with you. Whereas,
be technical.
Whereas Forest have got some good players, and so it makes it sort of even more dangerous really when you've got players like Hudson-Odoi and Elanga who are good technical players. They've come from, through academies at clubs where they're not coaching low block, put it that way. They're coaching getting on the ball, and I think both of them could have, in different scenarios, made it at the clubs that they were at. I'm sure there's plenty of Man United fans looking at Elanga thinking, why isn't he still at the club? In fact, I know there's one or two of them are, because I speak to them about football, and Hudson-Odoi, with a different manager at a different time, I think sort of could have made it at Chelsea, and Chris Wood's obviously the best striker in Europe, and so when you've got those situations, it does make it sort of even more dangerous, does it? Because we've seen teams, especially to Anfield, come and low block, but then when they get the ball, they just give it back to you because they're not very good, or we pressured them, or there's no out. Whereas when they've got that out, it makes it. It does make it harder to play against, and I guess this is my way of saying, like, sometimes playing against a good team can be something that, a reason for why the first half didn't go well as well.
Yeah, we spoke about that dynamic on the Monday show, I think, didn't we? Like, getting that balance between doing enough whereby you're creating enough and you're breaking down their block and moving them around and all that, versus giving the ball away and conceding transitions going the other way. That's what you obviously don't want. That's what Forest are trying to establish, trying to achieve. So striking that balance is tricky, and I think we did relatively well with that. I think we did it as good as you possibly can against Forest. I think when it comes to creating a fair amount, I think we created enough to win the game in the end. And in terms of what we faced, we faced a few things, and the Chris Wood chance is too clear cut. But beyond that, that was probably because they had a lead, to be fair. But beyond that, I don't think we give away too much.
Have you seen the XG race or whatever they call it? The Forest, yeah, that's it. Thank you. The Forest one just stops mad early, doesn't it? It's done.
That's exactly.
What was the XG on the Chris Woods chance? It's not that high, is it?
I'm not sure what that was.
0.2, I think.
The thing is, as well with that's his left foot, that as well.
Yeah.
So I do think
0.25. Andy says
0.25. Yeah. I do think Alisson is just worth keeping an eye on. Is probably the best way of putting it. He's when I looked at it since he came back, I think he came back in December. In all comps, he's faced 31 shots, I think, and he's conceded 10. So that's not the best. That's a save rate of about 60% or something like that. So that's low, and that's not what we used to seeing with Alisson. But going back to last season.
But Josh, to interrupt, that could be a factor of the team giving away higher XG shot chances than it was prior, because definitely as a whole, before Alisson gets back, we conceded like 2 league goals all season. It can't all be on him that we've conceded goals since. So there's a systemic thing which is giving higher XG chances away, I'm going to guess, since he came back. So it's at least a bit of both, I'd say.
Yeah. We're giving away a little bit more. Like, you know, at the start of the season, we took the lead a lot at the start and then managed the game and things. And now we are just going behind once. And then once you're behind, you have to open up a little bit more. And I think we're facing a little bit more in terms of shots and clear-cut shots, if you want. Maybe we're not getting as many players behind the ball before the shooter takes the shot and stuff like that. So there's some stuff in there, yeah. I think defensively, we just need a little bit tweaking. The goalkeeper needs to hopefully get a bit of sharp and smack, maybe.
Do you think Konate was a bit at fault of that goal? I thought he's not his aggressive self, and that's where he leaves himself stranded up the pitch. I think
Virgil's out of spot. I think Salah, it is going for the ball really weak. So I just think it's a really, really bad goal to concede, to be honest, all round. From the shot to the way the ball's lost to the ball that's played into Chris Wood's feet. It's just a bad goal to concede. And that's what goes back to my naive point at the start. I just felt it was a really amateur goal to concede in a game of that magnitude. So frustrating, like. But yeah, I don't know about the goalkeeping thing. I think that's like I was on earlier this week on my podcast with Beasley, and he mentioned an interest. Like he said that going back to the start of last season, Alisson is about -1, -2 in comparison to expected goals. So he's actually underperforming going back to the start of last season, which is that's a fair sample, isn't it? You know what I mean? So, but the season before he overperforms by 10. So you can get this fluctuation when it comes to overperformance, underperformance with expected goals and that. But I think when we initially got him in, when we paid the money for him, he was a difference maker. He win points on his own. I think of late that's just not happening, and we're meant to be seeing whether it's a form thing, a sharpness thing, or he's just. I mean, he's 32 now, so I don't know.
It's difficult because I think you can really look at everybody who's come back from injury and say they aren't at the levels they were at beforehand yet. And again, I think this is something we saw a bit last season.
It's what kiboshed our title charge.
Yeah. So you wonder whether or not that's a squad-wide thing, something that we are doing or not doing, which is having an effect. But when it comes to Alisson, I just think of... I don't know how much you guys remember the Crystal Palace game he got injured in.
Yes.
The chances that we were conceded up to that point in that game, he was having to do a lot. And I mean, that kind of contributed to him getting that injury. But there were quite a few where it was like, oh my God, they're going to score. No, wait, we've got Alisson, it's fine. And he did it. I haven't seen him do that once since he's come back yet. And yeah, we don't know if this is age. We don't know whether this is just the nature of the fact that the injuries that he's had over the last 18 months have all kind of been similar. So it's like if you're getting the same kind of thing again and again and again, even when you're coming back, you are potentially weakening certain parts of you. So maybe it's making it more difficult. But I don't know. It's a hard situation to be in, because you think of all of that and you think, but no, he's been so good for so long. But then there's also this nagging thing in the back of your mind. It's like, well, why did they spend £30 million on a keeper in the summer?
Do you know what I think it was a tell, subtly, and I might be wrong about this. You know the League Cup game last week at Tottenham? I think a year ago or even earlier in the season, I forget the fact that it's even the fact it's semi-final. Kelleher's nailed on to start that. I think they think the keeper needs games. I think they think he's out of rhythm, and that's why I think he started that game. I mean, okay, maybe they didn't want him to have too big a gap between games, but I think they just think they need to get him back into the swing of things. I take your point, Mo, but I don't think with a keeper. I know it's been muscle injuries that those are going to take their toll, and in the keeper terms, he's not old, really, is he? I don't know. I've got faith in Ali.
I mean, the comparison though is Fabinho, because he wasn't old, but he had a lot of kind of.
But outfield players are different.
It is different, but it's a similar situation whereby you wouldn't expect someone of his age to be at the level he was in terms of how quickly it went away, but he played a lot, and again, there was lots of repeatable things that happened, so you don't know. I mean, again, this is one where I'm absolutely hoping I'm wrong here, but you do have to.
I do think the recurrent injury thing is a factor. Just we're digressing on this, and I think that is why we went in for the keeper in the summer, Mamadashvili.
Anyway, that's enough on the negatives. We're going to look back now at the second half and all the fun stuff, all the goals, all one of them. Well, Liverpool nearly won it, and we're going to find out from the lads how they turned it around. Okay, second half then. They turn it around, Josh. They obviously get the goal, but there's a lot more better chances created as well. Do you think it's a case of, getting in at half-time, Slot's famous now, half-time team talks.
Second half Slot.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think it's the subs that make the difference? I mean, as impact subs go, it was fairly up there, wasn't it? And then the goal changes the game, or did you see positive changes coming even before the goal and the subs?
I thought we'd be better second half, because second half we stopped the long shots, which I'm sure he spoke about, because they were just useless. Bit more focused on playing an extra pass and carving out something a bit more clear cuts and stuff, which is difficult when they're just a stubborn low block that isn't moving. I think for me, what I liked was Forest all season around like the hour mark between 60, 65 or something like that. Nuno bringing on a defender and going to a back five every week, but it felt like Slot premeditated that.
Yes.
If as soon as that time was coming, Slot took off Canate, basically went 1-for-1 Van Dijk with Chris Wood, and played with a back three of Virgil in the middle, and then Trent and Tsimikas, which would be mad, but because he anticipated what Slot was going to, what Nuno was going to do with the whole back five thing, and for the last 20-25 minutes or so, Forest were always just going to literally pretty much stop attacking. Really, Liverpool at that point, I felt, really went for it, and it felt to me like Slot, knows Nuno does that, was prepared for it. I actually think we saw it in the Anfield game. Mm-hmm. I was at that game, but it looked mad. It looked mad in at the time, because we couldn't keep the ball and we kept conceding transition, because they brought on Hudson-Odoi and Langer late in that game. So we couldn't keep the ball. We kept conceding counters, and when you keep conceding counters and you've got Tsimikas and Trent as wide centre backs, you were. It looked crazy. It looked like it just like a telephone number formation or something. But it worked a lot better than this game, because we were ready for what they were going to do, and we kept the ball and wave after wave of attack. And I think it's difficult to create those waves against Forest. I don't think Forest will face a siege like that for the rest of the season. To be fair, I think Liverpool were really really good with what they did and didn't really create many tap-ins or anything like that, but I think Jota could genuinely score 3, and I don't think it's like bad finishes. I think the goalkeeper's just there. Like the goalkeeper's, I don't know if the good saves or whether Jota's just smacking him right at him, but he connects with the strike well and things like that. But Liverpool much better second half, and I think Slot deserves credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, he's managing games well, isn't he, Slot? And we're seeing that. We're talking about half time, but also seeing how games are going in the second half, and that's how it looked to me. In the ground, I couldn't figure out if Gravenberch was playing centre half or whether he was playing midfield, or there was probably a little bit of both. To be honest with you, it was probably 4 when it needed to be, and then 3 when it didn't. But obviously, Trent was still sort of able to get forward and that, but he seems to clock quite well within games. These are done with this now, so we don't have to worry about it. There was in the Man United game as well, which is obviously a little bit disappointing with the draw, but I think he makes good changes in that game as well, tactically, and that he's like, well, we're trying to win a midfield battle that they're not even fighting. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, like, what's the point? And sort of completely sort of changes the game, because he's like, why have I got a tank on a field where the opposition are just somewhere else? And so it's those, I think, where whether it's him, whether it's coaching team, whether it's a combination of all of them, which is probably the case now. It is at most football clubs. They are seeing where the fights are, where the space are, and if they don't think it's valuable to have someone stood there, they won't have him, even if it looks a bit unconventional.
Yeah, and I think it's a combination between not panicking, but also being able to take his ego out of the situation to say, well, this thing that I thought would work isn't working, so let's change it. So you've seen quite a few times in the past where managers have had a big idea and they'll persevere with it. They'll go down with the ship because they thought, well, no, this is why I thought it would work, and let's just keep doing it. So Brendan Rodgers always used to say that it was like, Plan B is make Plan A work better, wasn't it? And I always just felt a bit like, maybe.
It was like Southgate's like that.
Yeah.
Southgate for England. Just
straight swaps.
Stick with Plan A, mate, honestly.
Whereas sometimes you need to, as I say, take your ego out of it and just see what the pitch is showing you. And I do think that the combination of knowing what Nuno was going to do and knowing what he had on the bench in reserve, because that was the other area where we were at, or probably the biggest area of advantage Liverpool had over Nottingham Forest was the bench. The fact that we could bring players on who could then change the game in our favour. So waiting for the right time to do it. I mean, a lot of people were saying, well, Jota could have quite easily started that game. And I do think if Jota started that game, then maybe we'd have put them under pressure earlier. And we might have been able to not have to wait for the last half-hour siege, and maybe they wouldn't have held out. But, I mean, these are all ifs and buts here. I think the fact that when he went with this change, it was decisive, and it really did work. It relied a lot on Gravenberch to be able to understand when he needed to drop back, because there were a few moments in that second half where Forest won the ball from us when we were attacking, looked to go direct to their fast players, but Gravenberch was able to see it and intercept it and then set another attack on. And when you're Forest and you've been defending for your lives for about a period of 5-10 minutes, suddenly get the ball, you think, right, this is our chance, get it up there. And then literally 2 seconds later, the ball's gone. Oh, wait, we're back in another defensive set. That starts to wear on you. And I think that we saw that. That's why most of the big chances came in the last 5-10 minutes, because it was like they just couldn't get out in the same way as they had before. They couldn't build attacks. They couldn't really do anything. And if you aren't able to kind of do anything but defend, you get to a point where you just think, well, maybe I can't do it any longer. And I do think it was one of those games where if we'd have played another 4 or 5 minutes, we'd have won it. And I mean, lest we forget how late we won it last year.
Yeah, I thought he blew up early because it was.
They always do.
He called 7 minutes. The ball goes out on 6 minutes 30. The fella stands there for 30 seconds, then throws it in, and he blows up. I was fuming. I was just like, well, he just stood there for 30 seconds with the ball to take it up to time, and you're like, right, that's it. Now that annoyed me. But anyway, that's sort of by the bag. But it's interesting. The Jota sub's interesting for me because he actually comes on as a fourth striker, doesn't he, Rob? Initially, and then when he takes Diaz off and puts Jones on, it's back to sort of more of a 3 and a 3, if you like, if you want to sort of call it that. But he does seem keen to have forward on the pitch at certain times, and a lot's made, Rob, of the fact that it's 6 forwards, and we've talked a lot this season. Oh, it's 2 for each position, but I wonder whether he wants 6 because it makes it easy to play 4, and sometimes he will want to play 4. And there's a lot of home games that look very winnable, but will create challenges, partly because of the low block situation. I don't think we're a million miles away from seeing 4 from the off in these games, because he'll be looking at them and like Mo says, anticipating what the opposition are likely to do. And I think there might be a couple of games where coming up where he goes, do you know what? I'm picking 4 because I think we'll attack better in that way.
Yeah, I think the 3 times I'm going to half remember that I've seen it recently was Forest, United, and Fulham. I think if he had his time again, I think he'd do exactly what you said. Why not? We don't need 3 in the middle of the park in an orthodox sense, do we? Let's just have extra forwards and goal scorers on. And you're right, in a squad sense, if you're regularly going with 4, especially against the bottom 9 at home, that kind of thing, which is where the case is strongest for doing that regularly. If you want 4, you might arguably need 7 in your squad, or at least 7 who can play that way. Or you might need to look at Harvey Elliott. So you might need to do a few more shifts actually in the front three in games. Obviously it was hugely encouraging how the phase after he went to 4 and beyond worked. We came out of it looking like the team we want Liverpool to be, looking like the best team in the league. Really, I was interested about contrasting with the first half, where our plan A seemed to be create some space on the edge of the box and twat it, hopefully on a low XG chance, and nothing happening. Second half, it was all the good stuff for me came down that right-hand channel.
Yeah.
Salah facing up is trying to create some overload so that Salah could face up his fullback, and either Szoboszlai or Jota running off the back of the centre half, and a little cute 3-yard ball down the side of the fullback, and we've got a man suddenly all but standing on the edge of the 6-yard box, about to have a shot from quite a decent close range distance. I've seen that a few times in Liverpool this season in second halves, by the way. It happened against Ipswich, if you think back to the first goal we scored.
Szoboszlai does it really well.
And the manager says afterwards, what we changed was we asked him to start running in behind. And I thought, running in behind, eh? Whoever thought of that? You know? But I was watching Arsenal last night, who played in patches better than I've seen them play for a while. They were doing that in the first half.
Spurs leave a lot of space, is what I would say.
But even so, first half in that Arsenal game, I know you wanted to get on to talk about it later.
It's all right.
Spurs were very bloody deep because they were pushed back and didn't have a choice. But Sterling was still always looking to thread somebody in just inside him in the way we were doing with Salah and Jota. And I don't fully, of all the years I've been watching the game, I don't fully understand how something that obvious isn't something you do from the off, even against a low block. But anyway.
Yeah, maybe it's a space issue. And maybe
tired
they're
legs.
Feeling like it's not there. You know, there's a tired legs thing as well. But, I mean, Rob's moved us on to Arsenal, so let's do it. Just where does it leave us? You know, I mean, where it leaves us literally is 4 points clear, top of the table. We've played one less game than Arsenal and Forest, who were the two sort of closest team. How are you feeling when you look at the league table? It's interesting how Liverpool and Arsenal went into this week with identical form. You know, 3 wins, 2 draws from the last sort of 5 games. They even came in the same game weeks, which is sort of quite interesting. Obviously, now that they've sort of won that game, but it was a game that they would have been expected to win. You know, they were home. It's an North London derby, yeah, but you know, it's a game that they're expected to win. That do. How do you analyse it when you sort of look at it? And do you think Liverpool will be calm at the moment, or do you think they'll be a little bit cautious, sort of not cautious, but a little bit aware that A, they're not playing quite as well as what they'd like to, and B, that gap's just got a little bit narrower?
Yeah, I think Liverpool needs to just, maybe they need this to get like a bit of a kick up the backside type vibe, but I think I still have a lot of confidence that we're in a very good spot. Like, I mean, for me, we're still the best team in the league. Got the best attack by a country mile. Defensively, we've conceded 20. Forest's defence is unbelievable. They've conceded 20 as well. Arsenal known for their defence. They've conceded 19. Liverpool's expected goal difference is the best in the league. It's like double Arsenal's. That suggests that, like, moving forward, you know, I think you're a product. Your results are a product of your performances, and Liverpool's performance level is higher than Arsenal's. And I think if you look over the course of a campaign, it's normal to have, like, you know, it's a bit of a ups and downs type vibe in it. And I think we've seen, like, the floor of Chelsea recently. Chelsea have struggled recently, and I think, did they win just recently? This week.
They drew this week 2-2, I think.
So everyone drew on Tuesday, didn't they?
So I think
haven't won for a while, have they?
I think I'm right in saying they haven't won since like the 15th of December.
They've definitely dropped points in 4 of their last 4 or 5 games, definitely.
Yeah, well, there was a point where they could go top. At one point, that was just before Christmas.
Yeah, they lost.
They haven't actually won a game since. And that's because they've had that dip, and it's resulted in what we're currently seeing. You know, City were near the top at the start, that now they're fully in the dip. You know, but if this is Liverpool's dip, this is still really fine. This is not a bad place or anything like that. Arsenal have had a dip and they fell 11 points behind us or something like that. So I think we're all right. You know, we've got a 4-point lead and we're the best team. And if we beat Everton, it's a 7-point lead again. And I think for me the reason I've got a lot of faith in Everton just being fine is because I think everyone else is kind of not that good. Like,
we're not facing a City team.
We need to underline that part, though. That's a really important point.
If this was any other season, we'd be going 4 with a game in hand. but it's City in second place, and there's 17 games left. They could win 15, and that's not even exaggerating. And if that's the case, that lead probably isn't going to be enough if with this kind of form that we've got. Which what we're displaying is old money title form, right? Which is probably going at 2.2 points a game. I think 2.15 points a game would win you an 85-point title. I'm just picking numbers out of the air.
I think Arsenal will end on about 81 points or something like that.
They're running just over 2 points a game, aren't they?
Yeah, but I think when I last checked, they were on. I think they're on course for about 78 or something like that. Yeah, so that will never get you a title, And even if they slightly a little bit better than that and they get 82, I think Liverpool will get more than 82 points.
We've got to navigate this little phase, though. These away games have been thrown at us, nasty ones. The Forest, the Brentfords, the Bournemouths being chucked at us all at the same time.
Yeah, but I think for me, it's the only other team that could win the league for me is Arsenal, and I don't see Arsenal. Their biggest winning run so far this season in the Prem, I think, is 3 games. You'll need more than that to catch Liverpool, and I don't think they have the players or whatever / game to do that at the moment. Their most creative player is Saka. He's out for arguably the rest of the season because it's a really bad hamstring injury. It's like a Michael Owen type hamstring injury. Defensively, they're heavily reliant on the defence to keep clean sheets and the set pieces to score goals. But I just think over the course of what is it? How many games are left for Liverpool?
So we've got 18
games left for
17.
Liverpool. I just don't think over the course of that. Looking at Liverpool, haven't got any injuries, by the way. Everyone's fit, so
they have to bring a 10-game winning run. I think you do.
But Liverpool also have to be
not good, not brilliant.
Yeah. And why would we, if we've got everyone fit? The only thing for me is a big injury somewhere, multiple injuries in the same departments, or potentially, if we go late in all competitions, that maybe you can get a little bit strained in that sense. Then, but I just don't see it. I'm honest, I really don't.
I like that talk.
I am of the same opinion. Generally, I think that we have still got the best chance. And I think sometimes what you find in the season is that people are a little bit too short-term about things. So obviously, Forest have been on this great run. So all we've had is our Forest in the title race talk. And I mean, you can look at it and say, well, they're doing good. They're playing well, good football. But I don't think anyone expects them to be challenging for the title by the time we get to May. We had the same thing with Chelsea a month ago. I saw someone say about Newcastle because they were on a good run. And then you look at the table, Newcastle are still 9 points behind us when we've got a game in hand. Yeah. So the chat around
didn't know
the
they were
table,
that close. Bloody hell.
They've won so like 9 in a row in all comps, Newcastle.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Good team. So the chat in that respect is sometimes doesn't bear resemblance to what is actually going on. I think you can see a world where Arsenal have just got a good result against a big rival, so they're going to be feeling great, feeling good momentum. Liverpool go to Brentford and beat them, and not necessarily beat them well, but just beat them. And then Arsenal, the very next,
they got Villa,
Villa at home within minutes of the final whistle in our game, and maybe they don't win that game. And then suddenly we're back to where we were 2 games ago, and everyone comes in.
Or vice versa, though, Mo. That's the problem. That's where heads have to be kept, because Arsenal are more than capable of beating Villa with a fucking header from a corner by Gabriel, 1-0, and we're more than capable of coming away from Brentford going, okay, Brentford did this for 20 minutes, but we got back into it and we drew. That's also possible at this stage, and we haven't quite got the form at the moment to say we are just going to beat Brentford. I think we should. And the bookies will back us to beat Brentford. So it's likely to your scenario to mine, but not much.
It wasn't that long ago, though, that we absolutely battered West Ham. that was only literally like 2.5 weeks ago or something like that.
They've got 2 points less than Brentford.
What?
Yeah, they've got 2 points less than Brentford, West Ham.
West Ham, yeah. Well, there you go. And that was away from home. Yeah. And everyone on that day was saying like Liverpool are really good, Liverpool are amazing and all that. It really doesn't take much for the swing to I think a lot of what we're seeing is we're just scarred from the past couple of seasons.
Absolutely.
Really scarred. Yeah, but this is definitely a different kind of season. It just is. Like a few years ago when Leicester won it on 81. The next best team, I think, had like 72. When does a team finish second on 72? Liverpool finished second on 98, was it? Or something like that. It's a joke, mate. So this season, honestly, it's only Arsenal, and it's an Arsenal that are very injured and very defensive and don't really have the goals. Like, even last night, they crawl over the line despite, well, I don't say crawl over the line, I mean, like, they should have scored more probably, but
Well, Declan Rice says they were unlucky not to get 10, which I enjoy.
well, it might be
Not bad with a
exaggerating there.
1.4 XG.
I just love that. If it wasn't for just luck, we'd have got 10 goals today. It's really made me laugh. I'm sure there's other factors why you never. But yeah, anyway, that's by the way. Okay, let's have a little break and then we're going to look ahead to Brentford. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping before we look at this Brentford game. Australia, we're going to Australia in March. There are still tickets left for only 2 of the shows, so we're doing 8 shows at current count. 6 of them are sold out, which is brilliant. Thanks a lot if you bought a ticket. We absolutely can't wait, but you can still get tickets for Adelaide. To be honest, I've got to come on with Adelaide because we didn't put it on first. No, I have, Rob. They're going to hear about it now. We couldn't get Adelaide on because they've got like a festival or so, like a fringe. Not at the end of a fringe, is there one? So we couldn't get a venue. So we announced the gigs. Adelaide moaned. I'd say like fuck, Rob. They moaned and moaned and moaned.
Those Adelaide guys.
Honestly, why aren't you coming to Adelaide? Where's the Adelaide show? And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So we've put it on. They've not even bought tickets. Well, they bought some. But not enough. So Adelaide, I want you to get your act together. If you know anyone from Adelaide, pass this on.
So they're going to something else, are they?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, there's a fringe on. Who knew? So there we are. So Adelaide, you need to get your collective act together and buy tickets for that because you pushed and pushed for us to do it. So it's Saturday the 22nd. That it's a Saturday night as well. Do you know what I mean? Tell you what. Yeah. What else are you doing? There's no work. Come and enjoy us. And then Perth. To be fair to Perth, that's a second show. So they've been great. So we've done doing a late show that's sold out, but there's an earlier show. Would you call it a matinee? I think it's about 4:00. So I'm not sure it sort of quite counts, but a late afternoon show there for Perth. So you can come along to that. But Perth have come out, so they're all right with me. Adelaide, honestly, I'm gonna be fighting you in the streets if you don't buy a few more tickets. But that'll be something to look forward to. So there you are. So Australia, it's the Anfield Wrap.com /live or tour live or something, or just Google it. Then also Tuesday, we're at Gravity Max again before Lille. So if you come into the Lille game, if you come in specially or you live here, come and join us for a beer on Gravity Max. It's Neil Atkinson's birthday.
Is it on Tuesday?
Yeah, it is on Tuesday.
Are you getting him anything?
A pint in Gravity Max, I think so. So that'd be a nice one to come along to. So it's between 4 and 7. So it'll give you time to get up to Anfield if you are going, or you can watch it there or find somewhere else. It's up to you on the Tuesday. So plenty of time for that. Want to give a shout out as well to LFC Tours, who are doing 2-for-1 tickets on the LFC Stadium tour between January the 6th and January the 31st. So 2-for-1 tickets on the fantastic stadium tour. You get the museum thrown in there as well between January 6th and January 31st. You've got to use the promo code Big Red 2-for-1 when prompted. There we are, Big Red 2-for-1. That's also Rob's Tinder bio. So
Don't tell her.
That's why you sneak off to Edinburgh. I know. Big Red 2-for-1 when prompted on the LFC Stadium tour. I think that's everything. Is that, I don't know how
bombshell.
Is that how other people do stuff like this? I basically offered Australia out and did all that.
Slandered me, yeah.
Absolutely not. Okay. Brentford then, you talked a little bit about Jota before. You maybe would have created more earlier if he'd have been on the pitch. Do you think he'll start in this one?
I'd like to think he'll start in this one. It's strange because I think Brentford aren't necessarily what you call a low block team. They do generally draft out a little bit, but they are very intense in how they play. So it doesn't feel like if you wanted to do Diaz again, it would necessarily be as bad an idea as it was against Forest. But I also just think that if you're Diogo Jota, you're saying to the manager, well, look, every time I've come off the bench in the last 3 games, we've looked more likely to score. How about giving me 90 minutes instead of 30? I think there might be some others in the team who'd agree and say, yeah, can we have more of him, please? So I can see a world where he says, okay, we'll prove it then. Show me why I should be picking you every week. And he goes and he picks him. The interesting thing for me about Brentford is at their home record, because we've spoken about it most of the season, how fantastic they've been at home. They've actually lost 3 and drawn 1 of their last, and they would have lost against City, but they were 2-0 down with 10 minutes to go. So that would have been their 4th consecutive home defeat. Now, the other teams that they lost to were Forest, Arsenal, and Plymouth. Now, obviously, Plymouth is the FA Cup and there was a rotated team, but yes, they were losing in that game. And we talk a lot about teams prioritising things. Brentford aren't getting relegated, aren't getting into Europe, so they absolutely should be trying to win the FA Cup. And yet they didn't. And they allowed Plymouth to go and knock them out. So I think that as much as there may well be a lot of things that say, well, they can come into this game, they can cause us problems, because they tend to cause us problems every time we go down there, I don't think that they should be some kind of boogeyman where we think, oh, well, no, well, obviously they're going to cause us problems. Because last time we went there, last season, we handled it pretty well. And I think
4-0?
4-0. 4-0.
Was it nil?
I think it was nil. Yeah.
That was the game with the Mad Nunes scoop.
Yeah, and all the injuries.
The interesting thing about that game, if the manager's watching, but I bet he does, how did this set of players fare against this particular team last season? He's not going to not notice how well Nunes played, how well Jota played from the off.
Jota got injured in this game.
Jota got injured and Salah came on, played brilliantly and got injured.
Yeah.
And McAllister scored as well. I don't know who was. Did Diaz start? Definitely wouldn't have been Gakpo then, because Salah didn't start in the front three, so it'd have been Jota, Nunes, and I'm going to guess Diaz, but I don't remember him in the game unless Harvey Elliott played, because it was when Salah was just coming back from injury. It's a difficult one to call, I think, that do you bring Jota straight in, because it's no accident that he's having impact from the bench, because he's able to bring freshness against tiring legs, and he's an electric footballer, isn't he? And he's also, I don't want to damn him by saying he's streaky, but he's a footballer that can hurt a team in bursts.
Yeah.
Because there's many game in the past before we get too rose-tinted where you go, I haven't even noticed Diego Jota's on the pitch here. Against Accrington Stanley, he gets his goal, but I wouldn't say he was everywhere, and I think he starts that game. So I'm not sure it's compelling to start Diogo or not, but then I don't know. I don't know what I do. I mean, I'm almost tempted. I love Diaz, so I'd probably play him left wing, and I'd play one of Nunes and Jota. And I know a lot of people go, Nunes doesn't get anywhere near a start at the moment. Maybe he doesn't because of confidence, but he certainly gave Brentford a problem. They were fairly high against us, I think, last season, John. They were
gets him on the back. Yeah, gets him on the back, Nunes.
Jota got the assist for that as well.
He did with the back header, didn't he? Yeah. So I'd be tempted to look at that video and go, I don't know, maybe a bit of Jota, maybe a bit of Nunes, and the rest can figure itself out. It's really hard to call. I suppose if you asked me to bet on it now, I think he might just go Gakpo, Jota, Salah, but I'm not sure I'd do that.
Yeah, it's maybe not as straightforward as what we think. You see the striker scoring and come problems, you think starting, but he'll be looking at it, in terms of how they're likely to defend and how we feel we can sort of create chances against them. It's interesting, Arsenal made light work of them, really, and they were perfect in the league, I think, when Arsenal went there and then, turned them over. And so maybe watch the video of that and see how was their approach, where were they finding space, because it is obviously there, and they're a dangerous team, but the 10th, do you know what I mean? And so he'll be looking at it and thinking, well, there'll be ways that we can hurt them. It's just who's best suited to do that.
Yeah, I think in my head, if a picture how the game's going to go, I kind of visualise like a little bit like the Forest game, right? But I don't think they pose as much threat on the break as Forest do at the moment. And I don't think they're as defensively resolute as Forest at the moment. So in that sense, I think it will be just a little bit more open than the Forest game, where we don't really give away as much and we create a bit more. So in that sense, I think we should win the game, really.
Got good forwards.
Yeah, they've got good individual forwards, yeah. Obviously, Bremo is a problem. Good player. I think with a big move at the moment as well. I think Wissa is always an issue as well. He's good at getting in the goals and things like that. But I just they concede every week, Brentford, and I think we'll create a good amount against these. I think we put our chances away. I can see us scoring like 3+, to be honest, in this game. I think I would do Jota as well. He looked really sharp against Forest when he comes on. Plays 90 against Accrington Stanley. So I'd probably start him in this one, and then I think Lille, probably bench him again against Lille on Tuesday. I think it's Lille on Tuesday.
Yeah. It's Neil's birthday, mate. For a cavity max.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Lille and Neil.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Jota just gives you that, like, when Diaz is playing as the 9, he's good at lots of things and all that, good at dropping in and connecting and drifting out wide and all that, but Jota can do bits of that, but Jota also remembers he's the 9 as well, so he's got that nature about him where he also thinks, I also want to score though as well, whereas I think Diaz is a little bit more team orientated maybe, where he's doing bits for the collective, but sometimes forgets to pose the actual threat in the box. I think Jota offers that nice balance there, so I would do Jota for this game. Maybe Diaz on the left. Gakpo's played a lot lately, hasn't he? Like a lot of minutes lately, so. But it's a toss-up, I think, between who plays on the left for me.
So, housekeeping, it was Diaz who played in the game there last time it started, and they did score. It was 4-1. But interesting enough, Jota and Nunes don't make it to the second half. Jota gets injured, Nunes comes off. Just because he comes off at half time.
No, he had a muscle problem. I remember that very slightly. I
think they were overly cautious because Jota had already gone.
Yeah. So last season, if that is in their head, then obviously they'll know that Diaz did all right in that game as well. I'm looking at Arsenal as well, and it's interesting because Brentford took the lead in that game.
Yeah, they were very deep in that game, Brentford, and they sucker punched Arsenal nearly twice, didn't they? I think Wissa gets the first, and Mbeumo nearly scores the second, doesn't he?
Well, no, it's the other way around.
It's the other way around, sorry, yes.
But then
Keeper makes a rip.
And Bremo goes a really good finish as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Near post, isn't it?
That's the one. And then, but Arsenal get the equaliser before half time.
Yeah.
Come out second half strong, get 2 early goals, shut it down. So that does feel like, if you think about the way the games go, that does feel like a very Liverpool right now kind of way of doing it, whereby we do something silly, concede the first goal, but then are able to get it back to level terms before half time and then go on strong in the second half. I'd prefer us to just, not do the first bit, but I think that we have the ability to do the second bit for sure.
You confident, Bob? Let's be confident. Should we just be confident?
Yeah, I am. Especially listening to the boys again. I think I am. Yeah, I always resort to ultimately probability, and the bookies are the easiest guide on it. And they will be saying Liverpool are strong. I haven't actually looked at the odds, but I'm going to guess. Let me pick a number. Liverpool are 75% to win this.
But we're still 3-10 to win the league. I had a little look at that last night. That always makes me feel better.
That's slipped back a little bit, but that's from 5 to 1 peak. But that's fine.
You take
so
it.
I think so. What's that? 1 to 3. So I think we 1 to 3, and those sort of odds. Let's put it this way: Arsenal are looking at that and not going, yeah, Brentford could get something here. Well, they'll be thinking at the back of their mind, it's not impossible, but they won't be expecting it. A bit like us looking at them and get home to Tottenham last night, I suppose.
Are Arsenal away?
Home to Villa.
They're at home, yeah. Okay, sound. That'll be interesting.
Arsenal are actually shorter odds to beat Villa at home than we are to beat Brentford away, which is quite interesting. They were. It's very close, 12 to 25, which is odds I've not seen before. So
what are they saying we are?
1 to 2.
Oh, 1 to 2, so that's only 67%.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't think we're as strong as I thought they'd think we are. Ooh, tasty.
But, we'll back the boys. Okay, we'll leave it there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Loads more, obviously, looking ahead to this game on the Anfield Wrap app. So download that, get stuck in. We'll have reaction to the press conference tomorrow, which I'm sure Mo will star in yet again. And then straight after the game on Saturday, the best post-match reaction anywhere, audio and video, to hopefully what is 2/3 likely, according to the bookies, to be a Liverpool win. Also, loads of transfer stuff happening in the moment. In 7 minutes' time, Rob, so you've got time to get a cup of tea. You are hosting the
2 cups of tea.
You are hosting the double tea. That's how he's known for. You are hosting the award-winning Gutter Show, running the roost over. Is that a thing?
Ruling the something over the something over my such and such.
Having a look at some nonsense and some maybe not nonsense that's written about Liverpool being linked at the moment, and that is happening right now in 7 minutes.
You're asking me a question? Yeah.
And it started as a question, and then the question never really arrived.
Can we just segue into it without seamlessly? Let's just start the gutter now. Hello and welcome to the award-winning John Gibbons, or something like that. I don't know.
No, I need to get off. We need to get Neil Atkinson in, and Neil obviously needs to make a big entrance, so we're going to allow him to do that.
Neil. Yeah.
And I need to thank Mr. Andy Heaton, Paddy for doing video. If you've enjoyed that, he's been splicing all that together live as we go, and obviously to Mo, to Josh, and to Rob. Hope you've enjoyed that midweek extra. Thanks a lot to Green King Sports. Up the Reds.